So I've been asked a lot about this English language proficiency. So I wanted to make sure the committee understood that this requirement for CDL drivers was established in the 1930s, and it's governed by 49 CFR 391.11B2, and it mandates that drivers converse in English, understand traffic signs, and respond to official inquiries. And they have to be able to do it by themselves. However, this insourcing of labor and labor exploitation has signs of labor trafficking and human trafficking. The whole model that a lot of training fleets use is to use students for team drivers. So the trainer is sleeping while the student is driving. So the trainer's probably not getting very good rest because they know somebody's at the wheel that doesn't know what they're doing. And here's an example right here of this Werner trainer who, thank goodness, survived this crash his student had. So again, this constant driver shortage narrative opened the door to taking advantage of employer-driven debt through tuition repayment programs and lease purchase programs that we already had. This news that we've had this year of all these crashes kind of forced the American Trucking Association to finally say, um, oh no, the driver shortage evaporated. So you can see the contrast here that in 2021, the ATA claimed the country needed 80,000 more drivers. But now, Chris Spear from the ATA just in December said that that shortage largely evaporated. Unsafe training does not produce qualified drivers, and it never will until we fix this model. So the the practice of bringing immigrants, insourcing them into American trucking jobs really started around the early 2000s, and it exploded in the last few years, as we've all seen. Immigrants with language barriers, many with no understanding of federal hours of service rules, who are directed to drive 16 to 18-hour shifts with a ghost driver on their ELD. A lot of them are largely unaware of the FMCSA and our regulations or the 11-hour driving limit. A lot of them are fatigued, and fatigued driving impairs your judgment. It's comparable to driving under the influence of alcohol. So when you add a language barrier to that and unfamiliar driving terrain and our driving customs, add to that visa coercion. Some of them have their visa being held over their head if they don't do what they're told by their employer. And this debt. Some of these drivers have crushing debt of up to $40,000 over their family back home. This raises so many red flags of human trafficking, labor exploitation, and even labor trafficking. But trucking has a history of targeting vulnerable groups. This is the norm for the trucking industry. When one group is no longer in fashion, they cycle over to the next one. And I've seen this just since I've been in trucking. It was immigrants when I started in 2007, the formerly incarcerated, people of color, women, younger drivers, even veterans. So this is a repeating cycle, and they wait for it to get hot and then they move on to the next one. So I let my committee know that the current driver perspectives are that the truckload sector suffers from systemic labor abuse. And we're never going to be able to move on and solve real issues like substandard training, using new entrants to perform dangerous team driving, fair compensation models, A better understanding of the costs of detention and who is responsible to pay for truck parking until we completely abandon this notion that there was ever a driver shortage. It should be removed from our vernacular. Unsafe training does not produce a qualified driver. So there's this disconnect between job training outcomes and producing an insurable, qualified driver.